Hello, my friends. Hello, hello, hello. It's Laura Victoria Ward here, and I am going to do a really basic version of micro movement. So I was talking to one of my friends on the phone who's been looking at my little micro movement videos, and he's like, but really, what is it? So I'm breaking this down to create a form which then you can break away from entirely. And the idea behind micro movement is really to nourish your system, to nourish your body. All this little movement hydrates tissue. It calms the nerve. It can calm the nervous system. It can do a lot of wonderful things. And also, it could be tissue prep to go and do something bigger. So, like if I was going to go actually dance, then if I have done this, my body is much less likely to get injured. So really totally basic as possible. And I'm going to throw a few different possibilities in there for what's the easiest ways to get started. And I'm doing it standing today because it seems like that's the easiest way to go basic for me. So my basic micro movement from standing, which will actually probably look like really big movement. You'll be able to see it. And I'm doing it so that you can see it. Feel free to join me in this. So if you aren't standing, maybe stand up. So sitting is the new smoking. If you haven't heard that, it's just something to consider. Our bodies were made to be in motion and to move. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift my weight to my heels, and then I'm going to shift the weight to the balls of my feet, to my toes. So I'm just doing a tiny movement backwards and forwards. And as I'm in this movement, which is in the sagittal plane, moving forward and backward, I am moving my body sort of as a unit, as one unit. If you see this from the side, it looks like this. Shifting forward and shifting backward. And I can feel that from my feet up through my body. It's almost like I'm pouring myself forward and then I'm pouring myself backward as a unit. If I wanted to make this slightly more exciting, I could start from the bottom and ripple my way up. And if I ripple my way up and stop at my head, then I'm kind of cutting off here. So I want to ripple my way up and let it go all the way into my head so that the movement starts at the bottom and moves to the top. It's a wave of movement starting low and coming high. Marilyn, my favorite, my inspirational musician. So starting low, moving high, or this would be harder. I could start at my head and move my way down, head down. So I'm rippling through my body. I'm sending a kinetic chain of movement through the joints in my body. Yeah, I could do this. If you see me from the front like that, you can see there's quite a lot of movement there. If I do it smaller, I can feel that ripple and wave moving up. That's maybe not so obvious. And what's happening as I'm doing that ripple and wave? The relationship between my rib cage, my head, and my pelvis are shifting. My weight on my feet is shifting. So all of this internal movement is happening. There's a lot going on, which is maybe not super obvious. You could do it without anybody really paying attention, or somebody might think, wow, who's that weirdo waving their body? But if you just wanted to move forward and backward, especially if you are standing in line, or maybe even working like at a bar, you're standing there for a long time, probably you're going to be moving around a fair amount. But if you're not, just try shifting your weight. In Laban Movement Analysis, weight shift. It's one of the important things that we do in our bodies, types of movement, shifting our weight. So we could also do this from side to side. So I can push from one foot over to one side and then over to the other. So I'm shifting my weight. And from here, I'm sort of shifting to my bottom and making my way up, moving my body as a unit. Or I could shift and ripple it up. Shift and ripple. So that's another possibility. I'm going really basic, just giving you some movement options just to hydrate tissue, bring life to your body. And this is the kind of stuff that anybody could do. You could do this seated. So that's one option. I could move from my pelvis and let that sort of ripple. I'm making it bigger, ripple from my pelvis side, or I could shift side. So I'm not shifting my weight so much from the bottom as I am from the middle. So I'm kind of stretching side to side, a little bow curve one way, bow curve the other. We also, if we were doing yoga, we could talk about just doing a cat-cow, arching and curling. So in a micro movement version, I'm kind of more open in the front of my body. Now I'm more open in the back of my body. Open in the front, open in the back. Right? You can do this seated, just arching and curling, adding a little bit of movement. So we've had our forward, backward, in the sagittal. We've had our sort of lateral shifting, which is actually in the vertical plane. We can also spiral. And when we spiral, that's movement in the horizontal plane. So I can spiral. It's funny. I was taking it was kind of like it was a small group class on Zoom, and each person was kind of offering like a 20-minute thing. And it was a martial arts guy offering this twist, and it was like, which foot do you want to have your weight on? Do you want to twist into the front foot, or do you want to twist into the away from yourself, in the back foot? So these are ways of playing with it. How do we make it different? So, and all of these ideas are just offering ideas of ways to move your body. So if we know we have all these different ways, then we can start to mix them up and let other things come into our movement. And I mean, these are really basic things. If you study any anatomy, kinesiology, yes, flexion, extension, circumduction, just the things that are possible. These are what your body is made to do. But when we get more complex with them, like adding much more three-dimensional work, it affects our tissue differently. The hydration moves around differently, right? If I'm really linear in all my movement, everything's kind of up and down, not so much spiraling, the tissue's going to build in a certain way. If I start to add more spiraling to it, not that I want to go lifting like 100-pound weights with all these spirals, but I could do it without a lot of weight or very low, and it's going to affect the tissue and give it more capacity for health in a way. So movement hydrates tissue. And it can be very small movement. Here's my little twist, right? I'm twisting in my chest, and you can see it's going into my head. I could lock my head, and I can feel that cutoff there, right? So a lot of times with my versions of micro movement, I don't want to cut something off. I want to feel the wholeness of my whole body, so that anytime I'm moving, it's rippling from one area to another to another. And if you think of like dropping a pebble in water, how it ripples out, that's what I want to have happen in my body in movement. So the ripples are radiating outward or inward. Like there's this two-dimensional version of it or three-dimensional version of it. And it's a very alive system, a very alive, connected system. My body is one whole body that has so much capacity. So here are the basics again. Head, tail, arching and curling, shifting my weight forward, shifting my weight back, rippling that. So it's a head-tail relationship, but I'm rippling up, or I can ripple down, right? And what is that doing for like my heart and my lungs? Like a lot of times, a lot of Western traditional, let's say military movement or gym class or, football class, whatever it is. Hey, Teresa. A lot of that movement is very sort of structured and rigid. There's not a whole lot of freedom and form, and we want freedom in the form. We want to have both things. Like we can start to learn how to move, and then we can start to learn how to play with it. My friend was asking me, how do I know I'm doing it right? And I said, well, if it hurts, don't do it. And he says, everything hurts. He's 58. So, okay, I can relate to that. Sometimes things hurt in my body too. And then I start moving so that when I move, it hurts less. And I think that's one thing about our bodies. The more we tune into feeling them, sometimes the more painful they can be. Like, right? And when we allow movement in our body, we're also allowing our body to process things. We're allowing our feelings to come up, or we could be allowing our feelings to come up. I think rigidity, tension masks sensation. It's a great way of getting control of yourself or control of other people, right? Oh, we do it like this and it's the only way. So anytime we're in that, it's the only way, this is the right way. I'm kind of not into that these days. I find it incredibly boring. I want to know what's the wrong way. Let's try that. Like if I'm going to take your, this is me. If I'm going to take a Vaganova ballet class, I want to take a Maggie Black ballet class. I want to take a Balanchine ballet class. I want to try them all. And if I'm going to do like Capoeira Regional, I want to try Angola also. What's the difference between these two things? Which one does what? When is it good? So I'm a super maximalist in my movement diet. I'm now pole dancing, doing Continuum, and ballet. And then I teach my own sort of workout, which is very matty, mixed up with things that my body needs to do on a regular basis so that I can keep moving easily. So back to the really super basics of micro movement. You can go forward and backward. You can go side to side. You can twist. But I was telling you about my friend saying that his body was hurting all the time. For me, movement creates more ease in my body. And I demand a lot of my body. And sometimes clients will say, oh, but you're this movement person. How come you need to go see your chiropractor? And the answer is, because I'm a movement person. I need to go see my chiropractor because I'm doing things with my body. So I'm feeling what it's like to be in here on a regular basis every day. For most of the day, I'm in sensation and relationship with my body. And when we do that, things happen. So it's not like you move your body and now everything's fine. It's not like that. It's life. You move your body, now you feel something that maybe you didn't feel before. You're attending, bringing awareness in. But back to like the value of the micro movement stuff, it brings your awareness inside. So as I'm talking to you, I'm very out, right? I'm relating to you. I'm saying the things I need to say. And it's kind of fast. I'm a speed demon. When I really go into micro movement, I'm probably going to slow down a lot. For me, micro movement will not usually be a fast thing. It's going to be slower. So using twisting, forward, backward, head, tail, weight shifting, lateral shifting, and then mixing those things all together to find ways of being in your body. We are primarily bodies of water. As we age, the density of the tissue tends to get, the ratio changes a little bit. So like a baby, maybe 90% water, an old person, 60%, it depends, right? So, and Liz Koch said this, she said, we're all gonna age, we can't help it, but we don't have to get dry and crusty, right? She didn't say the dry and crusty part, I said that. But we don't have to lose our hydration. We can keep moving and allowing that. So anytime we can think of even like imagining that our tissue is breathing. And as the tissue is breathing, it's giving access to fluid to move through our bodies. So one of those fluids that we want to move through our body is lymphatic fluid. And lymph is a detoxifier of the body with no pump of its own. So like our heart is pumping the blood through our body, right? Our heart is responsible for that. Lymph has no pump. So deep diaphragmatic breathing. And movement stimulate the lymph. There was something I was going to come back to. It came into my mind a minute ago. What was it? And it was about the rigidity, freedom of movement. Maybe I'll write it in the thread later on if it comes up. Hey, Bronwyn Ray Pence. My sister is there. Nice to see you. Another movement teacher. And I'm actually coming to the end of this. So we can play with head tail. We can play with the spiral. We can play with lateral movement. And keeping it small enough that nobody is even going to see that we're doing it. The jumpsuit is everything. I have to tell you, this jumpsuit, I was like, I'm kind of like Johnny Rotten at a pride parade. That's how I'm showing up right now. Yeah, I've got the hair, but then I've got like the awesome jumpsuit that I bought recently at Starboard. And this is my one of my pole bras that fits underneath because can't go without that. All right, so before I finish, let's just find some growing and shrinking with the breath. And you can exaggerate it. So on the inhale, you're getting bigger, and on the exhale, you're coming into yourself. I feel like in a weird way, this is the most sort of metaphysical way of breathing. Like it's sort of the most magical because as you get bigger, you expand, you radiate outward like a star. And as you exhale and come into yourself, you're coming back into center, into focus. So it's radiating outward, expanding your kinesphere, growing, and then shrinking back into yourself. Yeah, finding a way to work with that. So that is also micro movement, but obviously I'm doing it pretty big. I could do it with no arms. Right? And I'm exaggerating the breath in through my nose, out through my mouth. Yeah. So thank you all. Nice to see my friends in the Facebook Live land. And of course, yeah, the fabulous outfit. A little ballet moment mixed up with this micro movement. Yeah, little spirals. If we imagine spirals, micro movement, like eddies and spirals through our body, we are going to feel good. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll feel like shit. But either way, nice to see you, Facebook people.